Hello again. For this next lecture, I would like to take a look at the principles of government, and this lecture is based on Chapter 1, Section 1 from your government textbook. So if you'd like to follow along or have a print off, or you could always again replay the video here for the lecture for Unit A, Chapter 1, Principles of Government. So we're going to look together at how is government defined, the basic powers, the characteristics, and the different theories of origin of the state, and whether or not the purposes that our own government says that it has are fulfilled. What is government? A definition that you should become familiar with is its institution through which society makes and enforces public policy, or creates laws that govern the people. The state. The state can be defined as having these four characteristics. Now, when we mention the state, we're talking about a nation state, not a state as in Michigan or Indiana, etc. The four that you need are, first of all, a population. You need to have people in order to have a nation state. Most often, nation states began in a way that is called homogeneous ethnicity. In other words, the people were similar in ethnicity. At one point in history, for example, let's take Europe, people looked around and said, all the surrounding people speak French, they eat the same type of food, same religion, language, culture, way of doing things, and therefore they made a nation state called France. So made up of French people. So oftentimes that is the case. The people or the population are of an ethnic group which creates the nation state of Italy or the Netherlands. Now, America is one of the few countries in which that is not the case. America obviously is a nation state today based on an idea rather than a homogeneous ethnicity. The second thing is a territory. You have to have physical land. Third, sovereignty. That's another word for authority. We as Christians believe then that the sovereignty of the nation state is given from God. All sovereignty, God as creator, has all authority over all things. So therefore, the Bible teaches that that sovereignty is given by God. Now there is a thing called sphere sovereignty. That God has given the authority or sovereignty to govern that particular nation state. Certain powers, but for example, sphere sovereignty means the United States does not pass laws for Canada or Mexico. It's within that sphere of authority. Fourth, a form of government. For us, the form of government is a democratic republic. For others, it could be a monarch or some other type. Where did the idea of a nation state arise? Well, there are several theories. Some have some merit. The force theory obviously has occurred where a group of people look at a neighboring area and they conquer it and subjugate the people under their authority. Therefore, by force, they acquired more territory, more population, and forced their sovereignty on them. Others believe in what's called an evolutionary theory, and this has some merit as well, that the nation states have slowly evolved out of the family concept. God originally gave sovereignty to the father in the home, and as families became larger into clans and tribes, the patriarchs would become sort of the king figure. In fact, David even says to Saul at one point in the Bible, "My father and my king." So the whole father concept sort of morphed into a king concept, so there's some merit to that as well. The divine right theory of kings, also there, of course, God in the Old Testament did anoint through prophets kings by divine right. Today, families who have established a name believe then also in the same way, they believe that God has picked their family and their ancestors as divine kings or queens. The social contract theory would give us most pause. That is that people have authority, and it's only when people gather together and give that authority to somebody else, that's how you form governments. Now, governments have been formed that way, but we as Christians disagree that all authority resides with the people. So make a note of that for the short answer. So on to the biblical principles, which are saved as a PDF in the About tab in Google Classroom. You can understand that God ordained them, all earthly authorities, and has given them their authority. And the government, therefore, serves the church. Oftentimes, it can be put forth that way as the earthly authorities are sort of like the scaffolding. As you build a church, a large church, you have scaffolding. The church is really the key thing that's being built, in this case, the universal church. But the earthly authorities are helping. God uses them as tools. So the purpose then is that they're servants of God, the earthly authorities. Some knowingly, some unwittingly are servants of God, benefiting the church and providing fulfillment of the spreading in the current time of the spreading of the word of Christ and the gathering of the church. Also the power of the sword, which you're going to read about in the article called The State, a Christian Viewpoint, in a Google Classroom activity soon.